All right, my friends, welcome back to All Cars, where we talk all cars all the time. And it's time for another retro review. And this week is a little special for me. I did a video about the Volkswagen Fox. I owned a Fox. This was a cheap vehicle by Volkswagen, brought up here from Brazil. It didn't sell, and they canceled it 7 years later. But I loved mine. It was cheap, unpretentious, reliable, and fun to drive, and an introduction for me to what it means to be German engineering. It was an introduction to me that the 0 to 60 times and reviewers commenting on the quality of the interior couldn't begin to encapsulate what a car felt like. Well, turns out MotorWeek did a review of the 1988 Fox GL wagon, which is what I owned when I was in college and right out of college after I graduated. I owned the two-door wagon, but mine was blue. I have not watched this, and I'm super excited to see what they said about it. So let's get ready and let's jump in.
Is made possible by TireRack.com, Rain-X, Hum by Verizon, State Farm, and WeatherTech.
Volkswagen is a company that started out selling small cars. When we think Volkswagen, we think small. Maybe that's why VW's bigger cars have never done very well.
If you didn't pick that up, Volkswagen used to use that in their advertising. Think small, because Americans buying these huge cars and the Beetle was running around as this little tiny thing. So that was a nice little reference to some of their earlier advertising.
Volkswagen realized that and decided it was time to get back to their roots. So they introduced the little Brazilian-made Fox last year. Volkswagen also realizes that people who own small cars get a big kick out of seeing just how much they can jam into one. So Volkswagen came up with this, the Fox Wagon. And it's the only wagon in its size class.
So I'd like to just say it is a shame that VW did not offer a hatchback in this. That was their competition, was the Yugo and the Excel. They did offer a two-door sedan and a four-door sedan. It's really kind of a shame they didn't offer that hatchback. Now, hatchbacks have never really been popular, but it really adds to the utility. And instead, they came out with the station wagon, which is unlike anything else. But I'm going to say right now, I still think that's a handsome car. 1987, 1988, guys. Okay, I get it. This is 33 years ago when I'm recording it. I think that's a handsome. Sure, it looks out of date now, and I bet we're all going to laugh about the interior, and the 0 to 60 times, but I think it's a handsome, clean car. If you haven't watched my channel before, you'll soon figure out that I like square cars, guys. I like square.
Class.
But just because it's the only wagon in its class doesn't mean that prospective buyers have to settle for second best. The two-door Fox wagon has all the good points of its sedan brother, the best bargain car in our annual Driver's Choice poll 2 years in a row. But the wagon has something more. That something is 33.4 cubic feet of luggage space that increases to a huge 61.8 feet when the rear seat is folded. This gives the Fox wagon more usable cargo space than any other subcompact. The rear folding seat back does not split, but it does fold completely flat. But all that utility doesn't mean that the Fox wagon looks like a utility vehicle. The sharply raked rear hatch keeps it from looking like other boxy wagons. And the large side windows for both the rear seat and cargo area are quite distinctive.
And you also ended up with really good visibility out of that car. There was a lot of glass in this car. And I will echo what he said. I mentioned in my other video about the Fox that I was in university, I was at college at the time, and I could fit everything I owned, you know, computer monitor, TV, all of my clothes, everything I needed into a Fox wagon. I filled up the front seat too, but I could take everything to my dorm in one trip.
But the Quantum Clone front end is still rather plain. Power comes from the same 1.8-liter four-cylinder found in the Fox sedan. This energetic little engine, which also powers the Golf and Jetta, puts out 81 horsepower and 91 pound-feet of torque.
So the same engine from the Golf and the Jetta, but in a vehicle that was smaller and lighter. I like that he said it was energetic, even though it only had 81 horsepower. Again, you're not going to win any stoplight races in this thing, but it was peppy. I mean, it was fun to drive.
There's plenty of work room for economy-minded home mechanics, but the fluid reservoirs are poorly marked. But marked or not, the engine still pulled our Fox wagon through the quarter mile in 18.2 seconds at 75 miles per hour. 0 to 60 was a snappy 10.8 seconds.
Imagine a world 32 years ago where 10.8 seconds 0 to 60 is snappy. Yeah, so let that sink in, guys.
A full cargo load will slow things down a bit, but performance is still better than the norm for the subcompact class. As with the Fox sedan, handling is one of the wagon's strong points. It's crisp and precise with moderate front-end plow. Body roll is substantial, but looks a lot worse than it feels. Confidence comes easily in this car, something you can't say about most wagons.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead now. I've never seen mine from the outside. I didn't know it rolled that much. I'll agree with that. It didn't feel like it inside. Again, this was not a hot hatch. This did not feel like a GTI, for example. But it was competent, and I don't know how to describe it. You felt confident in it, and it wanted to be tossed around a little bit. The university I went to down in South Carolina was up near the mountains. I take this thing up into the mountains and enjoy the roads on my way to find a fishing hole. You didn't get wallowing, I guess is what I'm saying in this car. It was fun.
Highway ride is smooth and comfortable, but wind noise contributes to no better than acceptable interior sound level of 70 decibels.
I turned the radio up. There you go. 70 decibels is not good. I don't remember it being very loud, and I spent a lot of time on the interstate in this car. I guess maybe I turned the radio up a lot, or just the simple fact that I was like 23 years old, and I just didn't care.
Braking is accomplished by a front disc rear drum combination. This brought the Fox wagon down from 55 in a short average distance of only 104 feet. Stability is excellent with no premature lockup and a firm pedal that's easy to modulate. You won't find brakes like this on a Hyundai.
Oh, snap. Did you hear that? So in my other video, I said VW went down to Brazil. Brazil had modified an Audi platform to start making the Fox. And to this, for 27 years, I think it was 94, 93, something like that, whatever. It was the #1 selling car in Brazil. But when they went and got this, the Yugo and the Excel were on the market, and the Excel was doing well over 200,000 sales a year. So VW went down to Brazil to get this car and bring it up here to compete with that. It didn't work out. They only sold 30, 40, 50,000 a year. And for the life of me, I don't know why, but right in Hyundai's face there, the brakes are better. I would also like to say on a more serious note, that stopping distance of 104, that was better than the luxury cars that I did. I think it was a 93, 94, something like that, luxury car Comparo. I think they were stopping in like 115. Maybe that was from 60 miles an hour, not 55, but still, that's a pretty impressive performance.
The interior is typically German, despite the Fox wagon's Brazilian birthplace. It's properly Spartan with a few concessions to creature comforts. Unfortunately, the seats aren't one of them. The front buckets are hard with only the most basic adjustments. Most drivers found support adequate, but there could be more for the lower back. As we noted in our earlier Fox sedan test, the bottom-end price tag also shows in the cheap dash plastic, and the pod-mounted switches are flimsy and designed to confuse.
That I'll agree with now that they say it. So they can say what they want to do. Yes, the plastic was cheap on the dash. The gauges were nice and legible, but he's right. It was cool to have the buttons up here around the gauges, but you had to know what they were to be able to use them. They weren't very well marked. I remember that now.
But the real confusion comes when you look at the gauges. What is a tachometer on the four-door sedan turns out to be a large analog clock on the wagon. The fuel gauge is still tucked in at the bottom of the clock face and is hard to read at a glance. The center pod houses simple-to-use heat and ventilation controls and an optional cassette stereo of the high quality one expects in Volkswagens. But the stereo is tucked under a dash overhang, making it hard to read the program display. The Foxwagon shifter is the same 4-speed manual unit found in other Foxes. Throws are short and crisp, and performance does not appear to suffer from the lack of a fifth gear. Rear seat entry is a bit tight, especially for tall people. But once they're back there, they find head and leg room quite adequate. The EPA rates the Foxwagon's fuel mileage at 26 city, 30 highway. Our 100-mile mixed test loop returned only 26 miles per gallon. Our earlier sedan did better.
Again, I would like to say that, and I was an engineering student, guys. Let's remember this here. And I spent a lot of time on the interstate, and my car didn't have a functioning air conditioner. I actually tested because I was surprised at the gas mileage I was getting. If I did around 55 miles an hour, a steady speed with the windows up, I could get close to 50 miles to the gallon. I don't know where these EPA numbers are coming from. And that's no lie. I remember I measured the gas, I measured the mileage, I tested it myself, and I did it more than once. And that was with a 4-speed manual. It was a good car that got really good gas mileage. Around town, it was just pretty good. But I promise you, I had better gas mileage than that. Maybe mine was just well broken in.
The Foxwagon's price starts at $6,990 and comes to a very reasonable $8,175 for our fully equipped test car. By comparison, a similarly equipped Hyundai Excel 3-door hatchback costs less and gets better mileage, but can't come close to matching the Foxwagon's performance or cargo space. In our safety check, the Foxwagon passes with standard radial tires and 5-mile-per-hour bumpers, but it lacks front passive restraints, anti-lock brakes, and rear shoulder belts. Our list of hits starts with the Foxwagon's substantial cargo space. It's closely followed by the modest price, fine acceleration, precise handling, and superior brakes. Misses include the marginal front seats and crude interior materials. But despite its few deficiencies, our time with the Volkswagen Foxwagon has proven it to be a solid, efficient little car that offers more driving fun than your average econobox. It's a great first family car or second car, and few cars are better suited to the economy plus cargo hauling needs of college students. This is, after all, what econoboxes do best, and the Foxwagon does it best.
All right, guys, what a lovely trip down memory lane, and very positive, as I expected. I seem to remember that the other tests I read, like maybe Consumer Reports and things like that, about the Fox were always relatively positive. It just never translated into sales, and for the life of me, I don't know why. I'm a big fan, in case you can't tell, and I admit if this car was sold today, it would be trumped by anything else on the market. We all know that. It's a 30-year design, but I'm telling you what, this square body gave better interior space than you see in some cars today. The squared off body gave more rear seat space than you would see, I think, in a comparable sized car today. Sure, the engine isn't that powerful, it wouldn't win any stoplight races, and the dash would need to be totally redone to make it competitive. But I'm telling you, that's how much I like this car. Very, very fond memories of it, and it's one of those cars that if I could wave a magic wand, I've got a pen, wave a magic wand, and go through and redo some things, right? Put a more modern engine in it, put a better dashboard in it, a little bit of sound deadening, foam. I think this car, or a version of it, could still be competitive today. I really do. And you might think I am just smoking crack, but I really believe it. That's how much I liked this platform. And for some reason, it never caught on. I thought it felt better than the Nissans and Hondas of the day, but it just didn't sell. And after 7 years, it was withdrawn from the market and forgotten about. And we've never gotten another subcompact from VW. Not like the the ones they've already got in Europe, or the second version of the Fox that they sold down, well, more than the second version, excuse me, that they were selling down in South America and Brazil. But guys, I appreciate you being here. If you don't know about the car, it was really cool, and if you can't tell, it holds a really special place in my heart. But I appreciate you being here. Let me know any questions below, but I hope you have a great day.